Hello everyone, it is Heather and I am filming this from the car, our rental car, parked at the Olive Garden in Plymouth, Massachusetts. It's a long story. Okay, so we just had what'll probably be our only meal of the day because it's 3:35 in the afternoon and we just finished what I guess was lunch. And it was my birthday meal.
It is Mama's birthday and she's gonna make her wish. Yay!
They gave me my dessert on the house because it's my birthday and they even put a candle in it and they sang to me. So that's nice. That made my day because I was having a pretty darn lousy day before that. I do have to say I don't have very good luck on my birthday. I really don't like when my birthday is because it's at the time of summer when it's always very hot and humid, which is something that I really don't like. And like there's never any good movies coming out around my birthday. And my best birthdays, I have discovered this is what they need to be. I either need to be already staying at a hotel right on a beach somewhere, or I need to be on a cruise ship. I might also be okay with going to Disneyland. Disneyland, not Walt Disney World, because way too hot and humid on my birthday at Walt Disney World. And I would also say like being in a European city might be okay for my birthday, but again, probably too hot and humid and crowded because August, big travel time for people. So, okay. The point of this video that I want to make today is about the challenges and difficulties that are happening with travel right now. And this has been especially evident on this trip. Basically, nothing is going according to plan. We've had just a whole host of issues, and I want to talk about these with you so that you're prepared if you're trying to travel anytime right now in 2021 or for however long this nonsense lasts. Okay, because it was kind of like this last year too. Although last year we weren't flying and we weren't renting cars, but from what I read, these same issues were also at play last year as well. Our flight was fine. We didn't have any issues with the flight. Renting the car, which I talked about in a previous video, which I will link up here. Right now, there is a shortage of rental cars like everywhere. There's a shortage of cars everywhere, and that's related to the the worldwide chip shortage for computer chips in automobiles. And the manufacturer of cars is just all messed up right now. So, and car rental companies sold off a large number of cars from their fleets at the beginning of the pandemic because nobody was traveling, nobody was renting cars. So they sold off all their cars and they haven't restocked all those cars yet. Now, I will say the rental car we're sitting in right now is a brand new car. It had 3,000 some miles on it when they gave it to me. And the rental car we had in June was also brand new. That one had even less miles on it when they gave it to me. So we are getting new cars, but there still is a shortage of cars. First problem that we ran into, or not really a problem, but something that was a decision of mine, and I talked about this in a previous video too, is when we were staying at our suite the night before our flight near the Minneapolis airport, we decided to change our hotel because after seeing the suite that we were staying in that night, I realized we would not be very comfortable in just a standard hotel room without the space and a sofa to sit on and things like that. And so I changed the hotel that we were supposed to be at for 7 nights here in Massachusetts the night before we checked in and switched from a regular Hampton Inn, I think it was, to a Spring Hill Suites by Marriott. And I've made a whole nother video about that, which you can go back and watch, okay? So I already switched hotel once, and now we're actually changing hotels again tomorrow. And I'm gonna come back to that as to why. All right, the rental car situation. When we got to the Boston airport, I rented, which I explained in a previous video as well, I rented an SUV, similar to the kind of car I have at home. And the reason that I did that was because on our June trip, which I've talked about, we had a major problem with trunk space and our big suitcases not fitting in the trunk of the rental car, which was a midsize. I talked to you guys about how important it is that you look at how many suitcases the car says it will hold, because it really will only fit that many suitcases. Okay, so I didn't want us to have the problem of getting our suitcases in and out of the trunk. It was very difficult on our last trip, and so I rented an SUV so we could just set them right in the back there with a hatchback. We got to the rental car place, the Enterprise at the Boston airport, and it's a long story, but basically the guy walked us around a couple different times and realized he didn't have any SUVs. And then he said he was going to go get me one and left us waiting. And he went away for a while and then came back and said, I'm so sorry, I can't find you an SUV. I don't have any SUVs. So then he offered me a minivan. And I said I didn't want a minivan. I was a minivan mom, a van mom, typical soccer mom for many years. I'm past that stage now, and I'm not going to go back to the minivan. I said, no, I don't want a van. So then he apologized and said, I'm sorry we don't have what you've booked. So I'm going to upgrade you to this Jeep. I didn't want the Jeep. Oh, just like that. Hold on. A Jeep exactly like that one that happens to be parked next to me right now. Just not this closer one. This is also a Jeep. This is a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Not that. I would have been okay with that. He was offering me a Jeep like the one behind it there. That black one. Just like that. That's what he offered me. I have never in my life driven anything like that. Well, it's sort of a top-heavy vehicle. Like I had a Chevy Tracker a number of years ago, and it'd be similar to that. I did not feel comfortable driving something like that in a place that I'm not familiar with. It's already hard enough to get used to a vehicle you're not used to driving, and then when you combine that with driving around a place that you're not used to driving as well. And Jeeps are very top heavy, and there's been a couple places where we've seen signs for rollover danger that I would not have felt comfortable. And the other thing was, I didn't want to deal with the bad gas mileage that would get. The mid-size cars get such great gas mileage, and I'm glad I stuck to my guns on it, because I said, no, I'd rather have a car, because I'd rather have better gas mileage than have, not be worried about the trunk suitcase issue. And I'm glad I stuck to that, because gas is very expensive here. I've only had to fill it up once so far. But even Andrew warned me when we were with him yesterday. He's like, Mom, gas is really expensive. And I'm like, yeah, I've seen that. So I ended up getting this mid-size car. It's a Nissan Sentra. It's nice. There's a couple quirky things about it, and we definitely don't like it quite as much as we liked the Toyota Corolla that we had on our last trip. But it's okay. And the guy put our suitcases in the trunk for us, and he had trouble fitting them in there. But we were supposed to only be at the hotel for 7 straight nights, so we only would have had to put them in, at the airport, and then when we leave the hotel to go back to the airport. Okay, so that brings me to the next thing. The pandemic makes everything about travel very complicated and difficult, because not only are there all the restrictions and the challenges of like, can you even go to places? Do you have to be vaccinated? All that. I have our vaccination cards with us. Nobody's asked to see them, but do you need a mask? Or, like the concerns about that, and the concerns about the Delta variant right now. And every place you want to go requires you to buy tickets in advance and make like a date and time reservation. Okay, so this is tricky. And then another thing I hate that is like an all the time thing is I really hate driving in traffic. And I've had to do way too much of that again on this trip. Although I will say it is nowhere near how bad the traffic was on our last trip in June. I mean, every once in a while we hit like a little pocket of something slowing down or whatever, construction or, whatever. But it's much better driving here in New England than it was driving on our last trip. People are polite and use their blinkers. Nobody's slamming on their brakes right behind me or anything. I have had a couple people honk at me, but nothing major. It's a very different situation than it was on our last trip. But I just don't like driving in general, and the older I get, the less I like driving. And then as I've also talked about before, my ankle injury, my right ankle it's been especially bad on this trip. It's really hurting a lot. And I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. And it was even really hurting a lot at home before we went on this trip. So I really think I'm going to have to get a second opinion about my ankle, but I'm going to have to go outside of my clinic because there's only the one podiatrist there, and I don't want to go back to him. So my ankle's been a problem, and my ankle is a problem for driving because driving is very painful, and having to brake is extremely painful. And so having to be in any kind of traffic where I have to keep braking really, really hurts, and I don't want to do it. So here on this trip, first we had hotel issues, rental car issues. The hotel I ended up staying at is a nice hotel, but it's literally about an hour from everything. It's kind of in the middle of nothing, and it's like an hour from everything, 45 minutes to an hour from everything we had planned on doing. And that's just been a pain, because that means I have to drive that far to get to stuff, and then I have to drive back again, and it's just not great. But I couldn't find anything, and I've been trying for a long time, for months. I keep changing my mind about where to stay and stuff. The closer you got to the ocean, the more expensive the rooms were. And I really had trouble finding places with suites. And also, a lot of hotels were booked solid and totally sold out. Another thing we ran into was we had 2 college tours scheduled for Megan on this trip, and the first tour was a total bust. Megan was pretty upset. I'm pretty upset. We told them all about it in the survey they sent us. We didn't actually get to go on our tour. And that's a long story too, but they were not professional, and they were not welcoming, and they messed up, and it was a very negative experience. It was a big state university, and that pretty much, I mean, it instantly ruled out that school for Megan, and she's decided she's not even going to look at any big public universities, right? Yeah. The second tour that we went on, which is the same university that Andrew's attending law school, and Andrew went along with us on the tour, that was a much better experience. And that's a small private university. Andrew and I both went to small private universities. I made plans for the fun things that we're doing while we're here purposely on the weekend coming up. Today's Friday. I scheduled them on Saturday and Sunday because that's when Andrew said he would be able to go. He has a lot of work to do for law school, obviously, and I totally understand that. But he said he wanted to go to both Battleship Cove with us, which is in Fall River, Massachusetts, and go see the Newport Mansions with us. He wanted to do both. And then he told me yesterday that he would rather go to the Newport Mansions than go to Battleship Cove. The things we already did on Wednesday, on the day Megan had the tour that was a bust, those went fine. We always planned on just the 3 of us going to those. We went to Mystic, Connecticut, and we went to Mystic Seaport, and we went to the Mystic Aquarium, and then we went to Watch Hill, Rhode Island, and walked out to the lighthouse. So all of that went fine. Yesterday, the big main thing of the day was going on the tour at the university. We also had lunch with Andrew and went to see Andrew's apartment and things like that. So it was time with Andrew and checking out that school. And that was pretty much our main activity for the day. Today on my birthday, we didn't have any plans because I wasn't quite sure, with it being Friday, if Andrew would be able to do anything with us today or what exactly we were doing. Tomorrow we have we have tickets for Battleship Cove. And then I have the tickets for the Newport Mansions, but you can go to the Newport Mansions anytime that they're open, like this year. And so I figured we could either do that today or we could do that on Sunday, whichever was better for Andrew. Well, now Andrew tells me he wants to do that, but he wants to do it tomorrow on Saturday. So that's kind of messing me up. And then we had tickets to the zoo, which are timed, dated tickets to the Roger Williams Park Zoo on Monday. That was going to be like our last activity. All right, here's the situation. Hurricane Henri, right? It's Henri. Mm-hmm. It looks like Henry, but with an I, so I think it's Henri. It's French Henry. Is coming straight at us. And the hurricane, well, I think it's still a tropical storm, but they are pretty sure it's going to become a hurricane. And it's supposed to make landfall basically right on top of my son Andrew and where he lives and everything around us. And so that's fun. And unlike on a cruise where your captain can steer the ship around the hurricane, when you're on land when a hurricane hits, you can't really get away from it. And our server here at the Olive Garden where we just had my meal, she was fantastic. Her name was Mary. Mary at the Olive Garden in Plymouth was terrific. Had a great experience. It's like totally made my day here at the Olive Garden. She said it's really just like windy thunderstorms here. She's lived here all her life. She says the biggest problem is when your power goes out. She says not having any power can be really problematic. She says, tell your son, make sure he charges everything, has gas in his car, charges all his devices and everything. And she said the other problem she ran into was because the power went out, her sump pump stopped working, and then her basement flooded. So I am still a little bit worried about Andrew being in a basement apartment, but he had a big rainstorm a couple weeks ago and nothing leaked, so hopefully he'll be okay. But anyway, because it's now supposed to be a hurricane, or at least very, very bad weather, on Sunday and Monday, we're not going to be wanting to do the zoo outside or the Newport Mansions outside or any of that outside on Sunday and Monday. So I've switched our hotel. We're going to be checking out of our hotel where we're staying at now and switching to a hotel in Boston near the airport for the last 3 nights. And then I got us tickets to the Science Museum in Boston and the planetarium show, which we get into the Science Museum free because we're members of the Science Museum in Minnesota and we have the reciprocal membership. And then we only had to pay $10 each for the planetarium show. So we're going to go to that because Megan likes space. And we're going to go to the planetarium show. So that's $30. That's what we're doing on Sunday. And then on Monday, we're going to the New England Aquarium. We have been to the New England Aquarium. Well, everybody except Ben. When we were last in Boston in 2006, August of 2006, Megan was 2. My dad, my husband, Andrew, me, and little Megan went to the New England Aquarium. So I kind of remember it, and I'm sure Megan won't remember it. So we're going to another aquarium. But hey, you guys will be able to check out all my aquarium videos and compare them. So we have some nice things planned now for inside on those 2 days when it's probably going to be completely horribly raining. Hopefully those places don't lose power and close or something. Okay, so now we have tickets to the Newport Mansions, Battleship Cove, and the Roger Williams Park Zoo, and somehow have to get all those things in. All right, today was a mess. I wanted to sleep in. It was my birthday. I've been really tired. So I slept until like almost 10, and then I let the kids keep sleeping. And I was on the phone all morning trying to get all this stuff switched around and everything because of the hurricane and all of that. And so that shot our whole morning. So we didn't even leave the hotel until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we hadn't had breakfast, we hadn't had lunch. So this meal we just had, and it's almost 4 o'clock now, at Olive Garden is probably our one meal today. And the reason we came to Plymouth is because there really wasn't time for me to do anything else. And I couldn't get the we tried to see if we could switch our Roger Williams Park Zoo tickets to today, but we couldn't find anything on the website, and we couldn't get a person on the phone. That's a problem too. Getting people on the phone is a problem right now with the pandemic. Like nobody's answering the phone anywhere. I had the same problem with Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. So I couldn't figure out what we were going to do. And since we didn't leave the hotel until 1 o'clock. I'm like, we don't have time to go anywhere now today because things close at like 4 or whatever, or 5. And so I said, it's my birthday. I want to see the ocean. And this was the closest place to get to the ocean from our hotel that we're staying at now. So that's why we drove to Plymouth, and that's what's going on. And I know that's complicated and a mess, but I just wanted to explain to you so you understand the challenges of traveling right now. It's definitely very tricky and difficult, and you have to be very flexible and prepared for all sorts of weird things. And then having a hurricane on top of it, just adds to all that. So just be aware, there's issues with hotels, there's issues with rental cars, there's issues with getting into attractions, there's issues with you know, health and safety protocols. There's issues with customer service issues. I mean, there's all sorts of things going on that are making travel very difficult and challenging right now. So be aware of that. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this was helpful to you and gives you some insight into what's going on with traveling right now. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos that I'm going to be making about these places that we're going to go to. Have a great day, everyone, and safe travels.